Todd Bowles says Devin White isn't going anywhere, and that could prove costly for the Buccaneers. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
Your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Bucs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so please subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you always get the latest episodes when they drop. I am James Yarcho, deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com, finally reunited with my buddy Evan Klosky of 10 Tampa Bay. Of course, you can check out everything that he's doing over on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. Of course, follow everything on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, and at eKlosky WTSP. I'm going to apologize in advance. I can't breathe. I can barely talk. I'm very sick. So I apologize for
you are the physical presence of what the Tampa Bay Lightning are right now.
We promised we weren't going to talk about that because the Tampa Bay Lightning don't exist. I'm glad I don't have to go out and buy a second television so that I can have the draft on and the Lightning on at the same time when I'm working in my studio. I will say Baker and Kyle Trask, they hit the coils on what was it, Monday night. So hopefully, I think if we had to blame anybody, it certainly would not be the players. It would be Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. No, just Kyle Trask.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Well, who are the 5 best fits for the Buccaneers in the NFL draft, according to one Mr. Evan Klosky? That is coming up in a little bit. But first, we need to talk about Todd Bowles' first public comments regarding Devin White since that trade request became public. And Evan, I don't think you've been on since the trade stuff went down. In fact, I think the last episode that you were on, you and I were talking about Bijan Robinson visiting the Bucs, and that started a snowball effect to where in the Locked On Podcast Network mock draft, I took Bijan Robinson at 19. Then I traded back in and got Anton Harrison because I'm that dude. But you have not really gotten to react to all the Devin White stuff. So at the annual Arians Family Foundation Golf Gala dinner, Todd Bowles was asked about Devin White's trade request, and he said, quote, "We've got him for another year, like Jason said. We discussed it. We're not trading him, and we'll go from there. It's the offseason right now, and nothing counts. We expect him to be there when the season starts." Then when he was asked where things stand as of now, Bowles said, quote, "Things don't stand anywhere. It's the offseason, and everything is voluntary. So there's really nothing to talk about at this stage of it. Once you get into mandatory and the season starts, then you can talk about it. But right now, there's nothing to talk about," end quote. So, Evan, is this coach speak, or do you think that Todd Bowles really, truly, honestly, in his heart of hearts, believes that the Buccaneers are not going to entertain the idea of trading White? And since you haven't really gotten to react to it, do you think they should trade him?
To answer your first question, can't it be both, right? I mean, this is a guy who Todd Bowles has spoke glowingly about even during the season before all the trade request stuff. So, before we can kind of put spin zone on it, he said that, this is a guy that he hasn't seen make like linebackers like him have not made tackles like that in 30 some odd years or so. So we know that Bowles loves Devin. Devin and Levante have been a tremendous tandem for this team and have solidified that linebacker spot. And who knows what would fill into that spot if they didn't have him. Having said that, it does no good for the Buccaneers to not say that, right? Like, you need to put the full court press to the press that this is our guy. we do not care about this request. He is going to be playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good luck getting him, buddy, because then you need another team to say, well, we'll make the offer pretty nice for you if you think about it. So to me, it's a little bit of gamesmanship. I think it's also the truth, but it's gamesmanship. And I think they should seriously entertain the idea of trading him if it is the right value. Now, there's no point trading him for anything other than a second, in my opinion, because if he walks next year and you don't re-sign him, you're going to get a third-round compensatory pick. So it does me no good to take unless you were like, we found our prospect in the third this year and we want him. It does no good for me to trade him for a third, which I'd get anyway if I just kept him on the roster and have him play the entire season for my team, who's going to make my team better. So for a rebuilding squad, for a team that I'm wondering if they want to commit that type of money to Devin anyway, it's certainly a trade they should entertain, but they also need to be properly compensated. And to me, if you're a team and you're not calling what's a second, I'm hanging up this damn phone. So that's kind of where I stand on it. I hope fans don't take this personally. You know, Devin's already gotten on the wrong side of some fans for the loafing crap during the Baltimore Ravens game, and I think some fans haven't forgiven him for that. But predominantly speaking, he's been a tremendous player for this organization. You know, I don't understand the Devin slander. Has he lived up to maybe the pick that he was drafted at? Debatable. But has he been really damn good for this team and helped them win a Super Bowl? Absolutely. I would argue if you can get any semblance of an edge rusher to put pressure on the quarterback, you would see 2020 Devin White again. He just needs help. So I love Devin. I don't think he's perfect. I don't take it personal. I think the Buccaneers should absolutely explore trade, but I also think that they're playing their cards correctly, and they don't need to get rid of him to get rid of him either. So it's nuanced.
All of our everydayers know that I like Devin White. They know my son is a big Devin White guy. I don't see a path where Devin White can remain on this football team in 2023. And if you can unload him, you need to unload him. And I understand what you're saying about if you don't get a second for him, it's not worth doing. That compensatory pick in the third might be the very last pick in the third. If you can get one towards the top or a conditional third next year, in addition to using Devin White as a piece for a pick swap or whatever the case may be, you need to maximize what you can get out of him. He's not, I don't see a path where he should be on the team in 2023 after kind of everything that's gone down. I certainly don't see a path where he should get an extension and get his $18 to $20 million. The Bucs have some hard decisions to make, and not everybody can get paid. And obviously, Devin wants to go get his bag. I respect that. David and I, for as long as we've been podcasting, even before the Locked On Bucs podcast, we are pro get your bag guys, because the NFL, of course, stands for not for long. So get paid while you can. It'll be real interesting to see if he gets moved over the weekend, because I do think it's possible, but you also have the effect of, is a team going to be willing to give up the draft capital if they don't have the opportunity to talk extension first? And I think that can end up being a real sticking point. But if it's a team like the Eagles, they probably don't care. You know, if you're able to use Devin White as part of a trade to go from 50 to 30 and jump back into the first round, and the Eagles are like, well, we had Devin White against the Chiefs, we probably end up holding on and winning that Super Bowl, and we're not going to pay him. So who cares if we drop back 20 spots, because we're getting a third rounder next year out of it anyway when he walks in free agency. Something like that absolutely could go down, and it'll be interesting to see if it does.
Yeah, I mean, it would make complete sense. Remember, he's only going to be making $11.7 million. So if you're a Super Bowl contender in need of that position, and you are balancing the salary cap, Devin White is a phenomenal grab for somebody. And certainly like the Eagles, it would be a savvy move, as you just mentioned. So, and especially a team that has 2 first-round picks. So there are routes for them to go. I also don't think they have to trade him before the draft. But you kind of ruin a little bit of leverage if you do, to an extent. Like what happens if they don't draft a linebacker? Your hands are kind of tied. Like if you do draft a linebacker, then teams kind of feel like you're trying to get rid of him because you found the replacement already. And then they're not as willing to play ball because they're like, okay, we'll just keep him and keep your highly touted rookie on the bench for a year, which is fine for the Bucs, but your cards are a little bit more known post-draft versus pre-draft. So that's sort of my thought.
Yeah. Well, and we are going to get your thoughts on some of the best fits for the Buccaneers in the upcoming draft that is coming up next on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Looking for a delicious snack but don't want all of the sugar and calories? Then you need the best tasting protein bar ever, Built. You've got to try this.
Built.
If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on the taste, then we've got just the thing for you. Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so good that you don't even realize that they're good for you. And what makes Built Bars so good? For starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, real chocolate. Good for you. Stay with me here. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream. Peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream are my go-tos. They can't be beat, period.
I'm allergic to peanut butter, but I'm cool with the other one.
I'm not sure how Built does it, but they taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein. Again, real chocolate. Going to continue to talk about that. Tastes like a candy bar, 4 grams of sugar. Now you don't need to wait for the mailman to bring you a box. And for years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com. But now you can get them at Walmart or Sam's Club and still get your specialty flavors online at Built.com. So head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can get a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate bar, or coconut puff. And if you are near a Sam's Club, you can grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors like brownie batter puff and churro puff. You can thank me later. Make sure you join Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino, and other Locked On NFL local experts on the Locked On NFL Scouting YouTube page for live NFL draft coverage presented by Ultimate Football GM. Kyle and Joe will be live during all of rounds 1, 2, and 3. And then on Saturday, they're going to get you caught up after each round. Join the draft dudes for the first round tomorrow night, live on YouTube on the Locked On NFL Scouting page at 7:30 Eastern Time. That's right. It is NFL Draft Eve. We can finally almost stop talking about it. But Evan, you've been off for the last couple of weeks because the Lightning kind of exist, and it is your obligation to have to cover them, even though they can't, cover the puck and keep it out of the net with a 3-goal lead with 10 minutes left
in the third period.
So you haven't really been able to jump in on the conversations as the draft talk has really, really ramped up. So our listeners, our everydayers, are wondering the guys that you really like for the Bucs in the draft this year. Last year, you were real big on Zion McCollum, and the Bucs ended up taking him on day 3. So who are a few of the guys that you're looking at that would be slam dunk picks for Tampa on Thursday night?
Okay, and I think this is still a polarizing pick for some, and I brought it up before, but I have a really tough time imagining the Buccaneers taking Bijan Robinson and people not being like, hell yeah, this guy's awesome.
Yep.
Buccaneers offense is going to be electric with Bijan, Rashad, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Let's not talk about the quarterbacks.
Baker.
So I just think that, again, for viewers out there that are like, I'm not mocking, but I'm just trying to create a voice here of, running backs, first round, don't do it. Here's the thing, there haven't been many running backs taken in the first round who have stunk. They maybe haven't elevated their team to a Super Bowl contender, like Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott. In their prime, Saquon's still very much in his prime, very good football players, right? We have no problems with these guys. Todd Gurley was drafted very, very highly. And, his peak was fantastic. Usually when you have these level of running backs who are viewed that highly, they're very safe. It's like safety. Do they drive the bus as far as the total team concept of the operation? I don't know. But are they really good football players? Yeah, they typically are, and they help.
Saquon just got his quarterback over $40 million a year.
Yeah, it's true. So, and again, we talk what's happening at quarterback. Well, Baker and Trask or whoever you bring in, if you can mitigate their importance by surrounding them with fantastic players, now you're cooking. Now you got something cooking. So I would not be in that crowd that says don't draft an RB in the first round. Bijan Robinson, to me, is a supernova of a talent. He does literally everything. And, you got Rashad White. So guess what? Be creative. And Dave Canales comes from the Pete Carroll system where they like tons of running backs. We know that they like running backs and tight ends, control the line of scrimmage, and they already have their two horses of wide receivers with Gage as a great supplement to that. So they're pretty much set there. So I actually think you'd be cooking with gas offensively if you can make that happen.
And don't forget Skip Pete, who comes from the Zeke Pollard offense in Dallas, being able to work with Bijan and Rashad. It's so beautiful. I don't understand why people wouldn't be excited about this.
I am telling you,
it's so sad if it doesn't happen.
That's really, and for me, people are upset about the concept of it versus analyzing the prospect. And to me, Bijan's a slam dunk. He's a slam dunk. He's a top 3 player in the draft. But you can get him at 19 if you can. That's a steal. That's a steal. Yeah. So I understand it's not a need, but sometimes when the discrepancy of best player on the board and where you're drafting is like this, you sometimes have to take that swing. So Bijan to me is awesome. Anton Harrison, Darnell Wright, one of those tackles I think would be amazing to slot right in there and keep the train moving as far as this offensive line is concerned. I think if you can solidify that other tackle position, to me, I really like the offensive line. And I think they're one of the deeper O-lines in the league. Now, that's not saying they're the best O-line of the league. I'm just saying you can withstand injuries and not feel like, crap, right? They're pretty deep. They got guys up and down that roster who have played in NFL games with experience. So I'm on, get another stud tackle, which you did previously in Tristan Wirfs. And man, that offense has kind of rebuilt pretty quickly. I know quarterback's a little shaky, but I think we can ignore that a little. I am anti taking a quarterback in this draft unless it's like a Clayton Tune, Stetson Bennett, someone at the end. I don't think they should be exhausting a quarterback resource. You got Trask, you got Baker Mayfield. Figure out what you have there. Give me a third guy late in the draft and roll with them next season. If it doesn't work out, then let's have this conversation in 2024. Not this year. Don't do it. I don't care about the need. Don't do it. Then for me, finishing up Thursday, Nolan Smith would be an amazing grab for me if he drops that far. I've talked about it before. I saw, Rick Stroud did a story a couple days ago, yesterday. But, I'm on record talking about this all off season. You need to get to the freaking quarterback. You cannot have Vita Vea leading your team in sacks and there's a reason why the team was so successful in 2020 when Shaq Barrett was munching sacks, and why the team has not been as good in certain situations, especially on third down when they've had to generate pressure because they got to send too many people. And in doing so, that leaves you susceptible. You need a dude who can get after the QB. And I like what Nolan Smith has. I think Lucas Van Ness is not a guy that's by all means I would probably give that like a C+. It's like high risk, high reward. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I can see them taking him on kind of athletic prowess and hoping to unlock something. But I think those are my Thursday guys that I'm kind of eyeing. And you mentioned it before we got on. Brian Branch, you can convince me as a great pick if you utilize him in a way that Antoine Winfield Jr. was utilized last year, where you're not just making him a safety, but you're moving him around in different positions. Then you kind of buy me into that kind of secondary with him, Winfield, Carlton, Jamel Dean. I mean, you got a pretty strong stable there.
Yeah, definitely. Plenty of names, all to keep an eye on, all that make a lot of sense. And then Evan is going to talk about a couple of guys that you will hear on Friday or Saturday. That is coming up next here on Locked On Bucs. Wrapping things up here on a NFL Draft Eve edition of Locked On Bucs. And Evan, you laid out some of the first round guys that you think would fit well with the Buccaneers that could be sitting there at 19. Maybe they make a little bit of a move. Maybe they dangle the Devin White carrot out there and move up with the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe they dangle it out there and they say, you know what? Fine, Devin, we'll grant your trade request. Enjoy Houston. But who are some guys that you are looking at on days 2 and 3 that may not have gotten a lot of buzz on this show or around, just because they're late? Everybody wants to talk about the sexy picks in the first round, and there's a couple of second round guys that get named. I think if I had $1 for every time David or I mentioned Sidney Brown on this podcast, I could retire.
Yeah, look over your right shoulder. That's why.
Yep, bingo. It's not often. In fact, I texted this to my buddy the other day. It probably won't happen for another 20 years when you take a look at the overall prospect rankings for the draft, and an Illinois player is listed ahead of any Ohio State player. So I'm going to revel in this, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Really? What, Paris Johnson's not
Devin Witherspoon is.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. He's ranked higher than any Ohio State prospect. So I'm going to enjoy this because it won't happen again for 20 years. But who are a couple of the day 2 and 3 guys that you kind of have your eye on for the Bucs?
Nobody from Illinois.
How dare you?
Yeah, no. First off, I
the Browns.
So here's my scenario that I think would be interesting in either a trade back in the first or a trade up in a second. Brian Bresee out of Clemson intrigues me a lot. So let's say you don't get the pass rusher in the first round. He is a former 5-star recruit. Didn't become the superstar many thought he would be. I mean, he was like the number 1 overall recruit his year, and didn't really dominate that way, but still highly productive. Built like a truck. I don't think that he necessarily tested as well as the tape maybe suggests, but his spark score was through the roof as far as not like number 1 or anything, but I mean, as far as within his set of prospects at that D-line, DN, tested very well on spark, and he's probably projected to be an early second rounder. So for me, I think that would be a huge snag to get him if you can. I don't know how you match it up, but you would have to either trade back or push forward. Or, I don't know if the slide is going to happen significantly enough in the second round to make it happen. But He's a guy I really like. Darnell Washington, Sam Laporta. I really like Darnell Washington, mostly because, again, he's probably another offensive lineman on that. Like, the guy is holy smokes, is he a physical specimen.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he's an extension of the offensive line, one that wants to run the ball all the time, right? Or I don't want to say all the time, because that's not what we've been telling. It's we run when necessary, yada, yada, yada. But they want to run. It's certainly running is important. Darnell Washington really fits the scheme, the run scheme, the block scheme, how much they love tight ends and utilize them. I don't think Darnell Washington needs to come in and like catch 80 balls here. That's not like what they're going to do with him, but block the hell out of the other team, get your grabs when possible. And I think he would fit that role to a T. So I don't think it would be like I just don't want people going into it drafting Darnell Washington being like, oh no, here's no OJ Howard. Like OJ Howard was drafted to be like a stud in that offense. I would hope that you would draft Darnell Washington to be just sort of a key contributor and one who's very solid at doing a couple of things where, I don't know if you noticed this, the rushing game sucked last year. And I think a big reason why was you didn't have Rob Gronkowski there holding the edge. So, and Cade Otton I like a lot, but to me, he's a little bit more of a better receiver than he is a blocker. He improved over the course of last year. I love Cade Otton, but I think you need a bigger body in there who can kind of fulfill that role and then kind of move Cade Otton in and out and different personnel and show different looks and still kind of get that job done. Sam Laporta, a little bit more offensively minded for me, but I just love him. Another guy, if you don't get an offensive lineman out of the gates, Cody Mauch out of North Dakota State, Hankinson High School, my former stomping grounds. Is where I started my career in Fargo. We know that Jason Light loves himself some small school left tackles. Nothing gets him more excited than finding a diamond in the rough. And not that NDSU is a diamond in the rough anymore, but man, I like what that guy does. And then finally, I think just the draft darling for everybody, Deion Henley. Man, they need a linebacker. I don't know if you've seen him recently. He's yoked. Like he is really, he got yoked. Just a freak athlete. I think he can play the Devin White role. I think he's got that sort of athleticism to slip right in there. And he's a ball hawk. Man, he's got a great motor, good personality. Went in there at Wazoo, kind of owned the room immediately coming out of Nevada. A lot of people love him. So my guess is someone's going to reach for him. But I think he would be a worthwhile second rounder, in my opinion, if you can get him. And then finally, a little bit later in the draft, you haven't found that edge guy. You haven't found that someone on the D line, someone who I think you can snag in the third round. Zach Harrison, go Buckeyes.
Yeah.
I just think that he's been. If you watch the tape from last year, and look, I watch Ohio State games all the time. He came on strong at the end of last year. Was all up in the backfield, and he is a huge dude. Huge. I loved his progression. Maybe not the fastest guy, fleet of foot wise, but Spark loved him, and I think that he would be a nice. If you have attacked other needs, you get to the third round pick. I think he's a guy that could be sitting there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of solid names there, and of course, it all starts tomorrow, so we're going to find out a heck of a lot sooner.
And finally, the quarterback name that I don't think many are talking about that I would love to bring in, and I think the Buccaneers will have a great chance if he's an undrafted free agent at any quarterback they want, Max Duggan. I think Max Duggan, if anyone's going to make like the Brock Purdy sort of comparison, I would do it for Duggan, only saying that he's played a significant amount of college games, been highly successful in college, He is a freaking gamer. Athleticism off the charts. Probably fits really well into the system that Dave Canales is going to run. He doesn't have to do too much. Heady, smart guy. I don't know if he might go undrafted, but to me, that's someone that I'd be intrigued with.
Why not throw the dart at pick 252 if he's still sitting there? I mean, what do you have to lose? In fact, there was a mock draft. I think it was Chad Reuter or whatever it is. He had Duggan going to the Bucs in the 7th round. 7th round's a dart throw. You either take your shot like the Niners did on a quarterback, or you're hoping that somebody pans out on special teams.
I mean, right, and he would be coming into a similar situation like Purdy came in with the Niners.
Yep.
Come in, be a third stringer, learn the offense, and break glass if ever necessary. But again, you're not bringing him in to play at all this season. You want him to get looks, and I'm intrigued by him. That's the thing is, like, what's the big knocks on Duggan? It's just I don't know if he can consistently kind of make the big time throws, but in this offense, you kind of need the game manager types, and he can run and scurry and sometimes you got to just kind of go off of what you see, and that's a guy that I know is going to battle for me out there, and as a third stringer on scout team, he's going to give me a hell of a look on some other QBs. So
absolutely.
There's some other intangibles. When you get to Todd Bowles spoke about it at the Aaron's Golf Classic on Tuesday, that while they know the first and second round picks are important and they're going to be instant guys thrown into the lineup in some regard, the biggest pressure for them is the back end of the draft, where they have a lot of draft capital and they need to fulfill some of this depth correctly. And to me, I think 7th round, undrafted, whatever, Duggan fits the genetic makeup of this organization.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. And we're going to find out sooner than later exactly who it is that the Buccaneers have added to the team. And then we get to speculate and have all kinds of fun with reactions to that. But for now, we are going to bid you all a fair adieu. Thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. Now, Locked On's NFL mock draft special is here, and it's bigger than ever. Follow along all 32 teams' first pick in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience only Locked On can deliver. And since your boy was representing the Buccaneers, yeah, I made some moves. I had some fun. So make sure you check that out and enjoy hearing all of the hosts that bashed me for my initial pick have to walk it back. All episodes are available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will be back tomorrow for our final draft preparation before I go live on Thursday night after the Buccaneers pick. In the meantime, of course, check out everything going on over at BucsNation.com and on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10TampaBay.com. Follow everything on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, and at eClosky WTSP. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. We thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.